Per usual, everything on this channel is for educational purposes only, is not intended as financial advice. It is Setup Sunday. Let's take a look. I almost did an emergency video last night, but I thought, no. I don't want to jinx it because alts were starting to wake up more than we've seen in quite some time. It's early. They tend to jump the gun, but things are looking decent on some alts. Now, relative to BTC, it's a bit of a mixed bag, but ultimately what alts need to do is to outperform MSTR, which is very difficult and even harder than outperforming BTC. If we look at the list here, not really much has changed over the past month. That's the last time we looked at this. Liquidity is up a lot because dollar's down a lot. That's probably the biggest change here on the list. Interest rates probably not going anywhere in the next meeting. Regulatory clarity hasn't really changed much in that it's still very bullish for crypto long term. We should see stablecoin bills and whatever else coming eventually. We should see an SEC framework for what's going on for crypto eventually. The tariff stuff, on one side you could argue it can't get any worse because we've sort of hit rock bottom. And you could also say, well, they're just not going to have any deals in 90 days and then what, right? Like the early stuff we're hearing that's coming out, that they met with Japan, they have no plan, they don't know what they want, they being us, the US. That's not great for negotiations with anybody. Recession risk is still very real and also makes you wonder, will this be the first recession that BTC is in existence for, besides COVID, which was a blink of an eye? And what will happen? Will we get quick stimmies? Will the Fed, Jay Powell, Trump, Bessent, will they stand by idly and watch the recession happen, or will they do something? I tend to think they'll do something, or Powell just won't be in anymore in 2026. Lots of variables there, obviously, but I think most people can agree we are headed for a lowercase r recession eventually here within the next 6 to 12 months. Technicals are looking better-ish. We're making highs. We're going up instead of down, right? We're going up instead of down. We had a big Sunday night candle for whatever reason. Went from 85 to 87. We'll take it. Take anything we can get. Momentum kind of picking up. That's a tailwind. I'd say technicals being flat's a tailwind considering how bearish we've been. And on a relative value basis, which I'm going to talk a lot about today, BTC is picking up a lot. And that's how we start to win. We start to get noticed. And then it's just too much to catch once BTC takes off relative to the SPY, the Qs, Mag 7, TLT. The white whale right now is gold. Obviously, we're not beating gold, but we tend to beat gold later on after gold stops. Google trends are basically at an all-time low for BTC. I don't think they're there anywhere. The pump fund stuff has slowed down on Solana. ETH just looks dead. Not even like in a this is ironic. It's the bottom dead. It just looks dead. So we'll see where that bottoms eventually, but Sol definitely the winner there. Other alts, the winner there. And again, MSTR. The thing is, if you're an ideologue, you're trading alts because you believe in the project, fine. If you're a trader and you want to go fish where the fish are and you want to make money, then it should matter to you. And the real question is, how far down the market cap list do you really need to go? Do you really need to go to page 56? I don't think so. I think you're fine on page 1, or you're just fine with MSTR. That's not always going to be the case, but I think for most people, it's certainly good enough. The crypto IPO is basically on freeze until they get the tariff stuff figured out. That's universal for all IPOs. And we're not seeing too much on the outflows or unlocks front. Interesting, though, that the US government's stash for BTC was supposed to be audited. I think they said explicitly that the audit would not be made public, but we haven't heard heads or tails of that just yet. So as far as technicals and setups, BTC still, the only thing that I care about really is the daily cloud, but on other metrics, we're finally turning a corner. I posted the 1050 moving average, got a ton of hate mail. I posted a 12-hour cloud that was bullish. Tons of people were just rah, this is so blah, blah, blah in the comments. Like, it's amazing how angry people are seeing bullish anything. Okay, fine. But I'll take that as a win if we continue to move up. We're still in the multi-year pitchfork. We'll take a look at that. Daily alligators on here twice. This should be, it's actually bullish. Below the 20-week moving average. Alts, for the most part, not really the place you want to be, at least that I can see. They're starting to wake up a little bit. Is MSTR going to 2x from here? Maybe. Is some alt in the 75th market cap spot going to 4x from here? That's the question that you need to be asking. If not, then it just doesn't make sense, right? But if you want to bet on that stuff, you've got meme coin options that look great. You've got AI coins that are waking up for God knows why, but they are. STX waking up, that's just BTC beta. And again, is any of this stuff going to beat MSTR? That's the question I'm asking. Because in a world where you can trade anything anywhere, why not just pick the fastest horse? The fastest leverage beta, fine. That's good enough for me. I don't need to think too hard about everything else. If for the moment, MSTR, which has continued to look stronger than everything, MSTR is positive on the year to date. Not much of anything can claim that. But there will be a time when Solana outperforms MSTR. But I think that's all you need. Like, what else do you need realistically? You don't need ETH, you don't need Ripple. I don't think, realistically, if you're trading. So you've got MSTR, Sol, meme coins. I think that's good enough. We'll take a look at all those. As far as the flows go, still basically flat, negative. ETH basically, again, dead. Really nothing going on there. We'll take a look at ETH BTC. Again, I just there's nothing else to say. It's down only forever until it gets a bottom for whatever fundamental reason, or something happens with flows. But other than that, why would you expect anything different here? It just doesn't make any sense. In a world where there's infinity coins, it's going to be very hard for ETH to start moving unless something major happens. So if you're in that camp where you think something major is happening, then yeah, I guess ETH could turn a corner. BTC relative to DXY in the green. DXY breaking not only 100, but now breaking 99. This could have been what helped push BTC on futures open here higher. The lower DXY goes on trend, the better. We don't want it completely falling off a table. We don't want panic. We don't want things going awry. But this is why global liquidity is as high as it is, because the US dollar has fallen as much as it is. Stocks down, bonds down, dollar down probably means that money is going home. It's being repatriated internationally. You can see that in the flows a little bit on US equities. You can clearly see that in the outperformance in international indices. And there was a time when BTC was considered more emerging market, more EM than it was considered, Trump coin, basically, right? USA coin. We may be starting to see some of that. So this should be bullish for BTC. This is the reverse repo in red. And I keep talking about this because eventually this is going to go to zero. And eventually QT is going to end by the Fed. And possibly, maybe, we will get some sort of liquidity program backstop. Until this goes to zero, we don't know what that's going to be or when. But if this goes to zero and there's problems, and we start to see alphabet soup of agencies spun up or programs, that's very bullish. Think BTFP. But the entire world on US equities benefited from the reverse repo draining $2 trillion. Along with ETFs, obviously, Bitcoin had that dual tailwind in a time when you wouldn't expect something like BTC to do well based on rates being where they were. So considering reverse repos almost to zero, it's worth watching. Certainly this quarter, we're probably going to get an answer on does this go to zero, when, and then what happens. Reverse repo is also part of the US liquidity equation. It's in the blue there. This spike up and down is basically tax money going into the TGA. And if you look, since 2022, US liquidity has been flat, basically. It's been oscillating a lot, but it's been flat. Global liquidity in the green has taken off to new all-time highs. So we're seeing a lot of printing elsewhere. We're seeing a lot of QE type behavior elsewhere globally. And of course, the dollar is coming down in the US, and that's helping global liquidity. So it would be much easier to be bearish if we weren't seeing what we're seeing with rates coming down globally, liquidity going up globally, and the dollar coming down to help fuel things like Bitcoin, things like gold. Super helpful. So although the technicals are bearish, the flows fundamentally are certainly providing a tailwind here at some point. And then we've got this. This is Bitcoin relative to the SPY futures, S&P futures. And we're just chilling up here at all-time highs. This has gotten headlines recently, but as it continues to gain headlines and eyeballs, then you get more people rotating into this stuff and realizing, okay, there's an option out there that isn't gold, that isn't international, that maybe is something like this through IBIT or whatever else in ETF land that is tradable. But it is a clear continuation of the trend here. And this relative strength really helps the story, really helps the flows. This is against QQQ, almost at an all-time high. And this is how we start to get momentum back. This is against the Mag 7, all-time high against the Mag 7. So although it might not feel like it, Bitcoin is winning in a lot of different arenas on a relative value basis. It's just on the USD basis. We're down on the year, haven't done much, but on our peer group, we're doing well. We're doing really, really well. And we, of course, don't really care about tariffs on digital land because you can't tariff us. You can tax us to death, but you can't tariff us. Bitcoin against triple Q, TQQQ, 3x leverage US tech, also sitting at all-time highs. So the story is there. The breakout is there. It's just on the USD pair. That's where we haven't really seen the movement. This is Bitcoin against TLT, 20-year ETF, US bond, and we've held our own here. So yes, USD price might be boring, flat, down, not what you'd expect post-halving. But all things considered, we're doing pretty good. Now against gold, it's a different story, right? There is a bull div here on this on the RSI for the weekly time frame. I don't have it on here, but as long as we can hold this low or not make a lower low, we will still have that weekly div. Eventually, the gold chart will slow down, and eventually people will look for something else to trade. I think it's very bullish for BTC that the gold ETF flows look like this. They look typically what you see, to me, something at the top for any ETF, Bitcoin, leverage products. In this case, gold, if you look at the flows in the green, 30-day cumulative, this is from Bold Report. Generally, we are near the top. Now, outside of ETFs, obviously, the central banks helped fuel this, specifically in China. But from a retail perspective, the retail's certainly waking up to it. And you're seeing that in flows, at least in US dollars. In US ounces, we're not quite there. Or sorry, in ounces, we're not quite there. But in US dollars, we're certainly there. And Bitcoin against gold also has a power law. And we'll be very curious to see if this plays out. It is at the bottom of this power law curve. APSK again with an excellent chart. So you could say bullish hopium, or you could say coiled spring. You could say beach ball underwater. We'll see. We'll find out. Historically, Bitcoin has followed gold. That is what happened. The stronger gold is, Bitcoin eventually is 5x that strength, thereabouts. So to see gold on a parabolic, nonstop insanity should be very bullish for gold, or BTC, sorry, eventually. Again, I don't think this is an entry here for gold. The entry was back here. Bullish TK recross price above cloud on the daily. And it's trading like a growth stock. It's insane what gold has done since 2600. Absolutely wild. So either way, we win. Root for this to go higher, great. Root for this to pull back, great. Bitcoin either wins more later or wins sooner. But eventually, this stuff historically has flowed into BTC. Onto MSTR. This is daily cloud. We're in the daily cloud. Overnight on Robinhood's at 327 right now. Not through the daily cloud yet, not above the pitchfork midline yet. I still like the insane target, 6,800 sometime this year. This continues to provide supporting evidence for a decent bottom. W fractals out the yin yang above the falling wedge, above the channel in the cloud. I'll take it. You know, this may give you 8 months of sideways, but as long as it can hang out up here above the midpoint of the pitchfork, above the cloud, that's go time. Anything above 360, 70, 80, whatever. That probably won't happen anytime super soon, but we're getting there. We're certainly getting there. And the outperformance is very noticeable. This is the 4 hour. If you want to cheat it a little bit, as I have, I'm still holding from March 14th is when I opened a position. I've added since then, but it looks good. It looks like 12-hour BTC. It's on the edge, on the cusp. It's going to be out of this 4 hour by the time this opens on Monday. And if this is working and moving and alts kind of aren't, then why, right? That's my argument. Now, it'd probably be important to match any alt against MSTR to see what that chart looks like. But maybe in a perfect world, you know, you get a move here and then you go trade the ETH ETF or whatever, right? Like, it doesn't have to happen at the same time. You don't have to sit in nonsense eating opportunity costs, because some of the stuff is starting to wake up. This is MSTX, right? If you want, it's basically just meme coins. That's what this is trading like. Even this thing is starting to look interesting on the 4 hour. Not quite ready, not quite. You know, above 30 by the end of the month, maybe 32 in May, 33 by May, 33 by July, maybe. I think it's a little early on this, a little early, but MSTR, I have no problems with that. For the crypto side, BTC, very strong, very, very strong. This is playing out as a inverted head and shoulders here, trying to get above the 12-hour cloud. We'll take it. We'll take it. 6 hour looks good. 8 hour looks good. Daily, obviously, still rather bearish underneath the cloud. This is going to take time. It's not going to happen in a day. May take us into Q4. I don't know, but we're not making lows. We're not making lows. Everything else is in legacy, and gold is at infinity. Liquidity is at infinity. I like our odds here. I like our odds here on BTC. ETH, it just doesn't make sense to me to trade this. It needs to find a bottom first, because if you look at the ETH BTC chart, it's basically at multi-year lows. And I know the ETH holders don't want to hear that, but there's really no point to step in front of this freight train and get bulldozed. It just doesn't make sense. Wait until we make a higher high at least. And we've done that several times along this journey and it has not held. So I think this needs 3 to 6 months of bottoming first. Yeah, I could have a crazy mean reversion V bottom and then stabilize, but it's just not for me. Sol makes a lot more sense. Would love to see this get a right shoulder. Would love to see most of this list on the right, or sorry, on the left. Up top, a lot of this stuff that has moved has done really well, really quickly. From a pure technical perspective, I'd love if this puts in a right shoulder and gets into the daily cloud, right? That's like the easy setup layup. We may not see that. We may see this just continue in the 12-hour. So you, of course, have to plan accordingly, because some of this stuff is inevitably going to be too slow if it keeps moving. Looks good on the 4-hour, looks good on the 6-hour, not quite ready on the 12-hour. So on the high time frames, not quite there yet for Sol, but it has outperformed many of its peers and continues to look stronger than ETH. And that is, I think, all it really needs is to look better than ETH. And that's going to continue to get flows and volume. I'm not sure why. Now you could say Barry did Barry Silbert of DCG. We're on a first name basis. He did a podcast with Raul Paul about Tau last week. Maybe that's why it's up. I don't know. But for whatever reason, Tau has pulled up quite a bit, quite quickly here, from 250 to 330. Hard to get a great entry on this, at least for me in my system. Maybe if you're watching the 12-hour cloud on this. I know we had talked about it a little bit, I think, in the last video. So that one's a little tough. FET has pulled up just like the AI sector. I don't know, right? Render pulled up a little bit. Looks good on the 12-hour. On Wednesday, I was talking about this. Maybe we get a right shoulder. Maybe we don't. It's in the daily cloud, right? Like, okay, game on. Let's go. It looks pretty good. So as far as the setup, you got options. You got options that aren't sitting in ETH, just watching that thing deteriorate day over day. Some of the DeFi stuff looks okay. Curve still looks the strongest to me amongst the group. I don't know if it's going to outperform anything long term, but it looks good right now. What can you do for me right now? STX also, maybe because it's leveraged BTC or thought to be BTC beta, whatever, it's pulling up more so than most of its peers. Looks pretty good there on the daily. Not quite an entry for anything yet on the daily. No pattern, no cloud stuff, but it's getting there. Same thing with the 12-hour. Maybe we get a right shoulder, maybe we don't. You got options. You got options. Algo even similar. You know why Algo? I have no idea. Don't ask me. I have no idea, but starting to pull up, starting to make higher highs, starting to get in the cloud. Fine. Like, game on, right? What else do we need to see? I don't know. Like, it's not October, November 2024, right? But it's something. It's something when there hasn't been anything going on for a long, long time. And then on the meme side, I think Pepe looks great. I don't know why. Again, I couldn't tell you. Daily looks great there on IHS land. 12-hour looks great for just vanilla breakout. Popcat, same thing. 12-hour looks great. I think you do have to watch these memes on the 12-hour. I think the daily is going to be a little too slow. But what the daily will do is help give you that edge-to-edge level, that 50% retracement level. So ultimately, you want anything you're trading to be BTC, number one. Beat the benchmark. And if you're able to trade MSTR and you're comfortable with that, you need to beat MSTR, because otherwise, what's the point when you can just trade MSTR? Now, again, that's not going to be for everybody. Some people like being in the casino, being in the arena, trying things. I get it. But always keep in mind, if this stuff is unable to hold against MSTR and MSTR is roofing right now, maybe that's the trade. Maybe the trade is come back to some of this other stuff deeper into Q2 if we continue to see positive momentum. For me, I'd rather just keep adding to MSTR. That's where I feel most comfortable if I want that BTC leverage. But the BTC chart looks good, and that's what alts need. So eventually, a lot of the alts are going to wake up. The problem is we're going to lose some of these. They're going to be just dead forever. That's the issue. Even CAS is another one that is probably thought to be, this is CAS, but BTC beta. So this chart is trying to wake up. We'll see. But measure everything against BTC, measure everything against MSTR. and see what you're most comfortable with. But there are options out there for sure. That's all I got for this one. If you like, dislike, comment, share, subscribe, and happy trading.